Welcome to PolitiFest 2020. Pick Your Future. I'm Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego. It's been great to be here. We are in the last day, the last big day. What a ride this has been. Thank you all for those of you who have stuck through the last few days with us or picked some sessions. We've had a lot of fun, a lot of great conversations, and a lot of little hiccups, but it's been a very good learning experience. In case you're not familiar with Voice of San Diego, we are a nonprofit news, investigative news organization committed to holding the public officials accountable and to giving the public the tools they may need to understand their community better and become advocates for good government and social progress. So what does that actually mean? It means that we make sense of what leaders say and we find out what they don't want to say. And so it is a constant effort and constant battle every single day. I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors and our members. So we depend on about 3,200 members right now, almost 3,300 different people who donate to Voice of San Diego who make this possible. But also for this particular event, I want to especially thank the Google News Initiative. We wanted to try to redo this whole event online because there's this virus going around, you might have heard, and made in-person events very difficult. And Google News Initiative stepped up to help us experiment with platforms all over the last 6 months so that we could be ready for this. I also like to thank the College of Arts and Sciences at University of San Diego, where we've held PolitiFest the last few years. The San Diego Foundation, in particular, is supporting all the community conversations, including this one. I'm so glad you guys put it forward so that we could have this good conversation about young people being involved in civic affairs. Also, thank you to Cox Communications, SCG&E, the Atlantis Group, the City of San Diego Retired Employees Association, City Heights Community Development Corporation, the San Diego County Democratic Party, and Business for Good. Remember, these events are through noon today, so this is it. We've got a great discussion coming up about an interview with the Attorney General, Javier Becerra, right after this. Very excited about that. And a few other things going on. Redistricting panel, big discussions today. You can use our online event guide on Cvent to connect with other attendees and learn about speakers and sponsors. You can also find that link at politifest.org. Click the link in the chat to order now our mugs, VOSD.org/mug, or our glasses, VOSD.org/glass cup. You can tweet along with any of these sessions or use the hashtag PolitiFest2020 on social media. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator. I believe the moderator is Jonathan Schulman. I know Jonathan. How are you, sir?
Doing quite well. Thank you, Scott.
You guys back in the classroom, I heard, huh?
We have been making our way back over the last month, about one grade at a time.
Yeah, there's a few hiccups, like everybody's trying to get back in, but I appreciate everybody's commitment to education. I've enjoyed speaking at Jonathan's classes over the years. Look forward to doing that again. Jonathan, take it away.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Jonathan Schulman. I'm the director of the Center for Excellence in Citizenship at La Jolla Country Day School. And to share a little bit about who we are, the Center for Excellence in Citizenship supports civic engagement and civil discourse. We work with La Jolla Country Day School students and faculty to develop unique opportunities for engaging with a wide variety of communities, both locally and globally. We see citizenship not as the one-time accomplishment of voting, but as a lifelong practice. And our goal is to help our students become informed, involved citizens who know and preserve their rights by attending to their civic responsibilities. You can feel free to follow us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/citizenship center. That's facebook.com/citizenship center, or email us at citizenship@ljcds.org. That's citizenship@ljcds, as in La Jolla Country Day School.org. And it's my pleasure to introduce our spectacular panel of students. for our Citizen Scholars, Students, and Activism community conversation. We have with us today, and as I introduce you, if you just say a brief hello, kind of wave sort of thing. And then, of course, we're going to be coming back to each one of our panelists. They're going to tell us a little bit about themselves, but just so that we can see you. Our first panelist is a junior, Eleanor Amir Lobel with Art for Equality. Eleanor?
Hello.
Okay, thank you. And we have Lucy Jaffe, a junior with When We All Vote, My School Votes.
Hi.
Thank you, Lucy. We have Tavisha Khanna and Yasmina Torres, both juniors with the School of Now.
Hi.
Hi.
And Cassidy Ratner, who works with Casa De Amistad.
Hi.
Thank you. And Carson Walker with Black Lives Matter.
Hello.
All right. Thank you so much. So I want to give each of the students here an opportunity to talk for a couple minutes about who they are, what their passions are, what has driven them to their activism, and what kind of activism that they're involved with. So let's roll it out in alphabetical order. And Eleanor, let me hand things off to you to tell us about Art for Equality.
Okay. Hello. Hello, everyone. Before I start, I would like to thank Voice of San Diego, Scott Lewis, and Mr. Schulman for the honor to speak to you today. My name is Eleanor Amir Lobel. I am a junior at La Jolla Country Day School and a first-generation Israeli American. Both of my parents were born and raised in Israel, and as such, I am trilingual and was raised in the United States with a global mindset, one that recognizes the profound importance of diversity, equality, and most importantly, hope. After all, Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, means the hope. The reason hope plays into what I will be speaking about today is that it is, at its core, the reason behind my belief in activism. I would like to think that most people want to do good for the world and for others, but I believe a foundation of hope and the willingness to act on it are what drive this objective of creating a better future. Over the summer, I founded Art for Equality, a nonprofit that raises money for the Black Lives Matter movement by selling stickers online of drawings and symbols that represent the movement. I did not begin the process, however, with any foresight that I was becoming an activist. When I began over the summer, it was in response to the flare-up of protests following the killing of George Floyd. Under normal circumstances, I assumed that I would have joined in these protests. However, as you all know, this ability to be within a large crowd is inhibited by public health concerns in the COVID era. Left feeling disconnected and discouraged, I began to draw what I was witnessing, simply as a form of catharsis. I was inspired by the bravery and advocacy others had shown and wanted to be a part of it. I later showed these drawings to my sister, who subsequently suggested, why not sell them as stickers and then maybe it can be for a greater purpose. And that is what I did. The fundamental idea behind my art and nonprofit is that no human is or should ever be regarded as inferior to another. Seeing all the constant and seemingly unbending negativity in the news and in the world can leave you feeling paralyzed. However, in the words of President Barack Obama, we have the choice between participating in a politics of cynicism or participating in a politics of hope. This means looking past the tragedy and hardship and everything that is frustrating about the present and focusing instead on what could be, using whatever resources you have at your disposal, however big or however small, to make a difference and bring about the change you want. I have not personally experienced the discrimination and fear faced by African Americans and others every day, whose safety and well-being is overlooked by so many. But regardless, I hope for a future in which this kind of injustice and intolerance is eradicated for everyone. That is why I participate in my civic duty and why I believe everyone should participate in theirs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eleanor. Really appreciate that. Let me hand things over to Lucy from When We All Vote, My School Votes.
Before I begin, I'd also like to thank Mr. Schulman and the Voice of San Diego for this opportunity. Really happy to be here. I'm Lucy Jaffe. I'm a current junior at La Jolla Country Day School, and I'm the LJCDS voting captain for When We All Vote, My School Votes, the San Diego chapter. And pretty much registering young people to vote and empowering others to take an active stance in our country's politics is kind of my thing. My interest in civic engagement and politics began during a New York Times political commentary program. We were a class full of 16 and 17-year-olds demanding political change through our writing, but seemingly without the platform to make this change, voting. I wondered why I was so dissatisfied with aspects of the government if like-minded people voted to ensure improvements were added to the country. Spoiler alert, it's because only around 60% of Americans voted in our previous presidential election, with young voters comprising a mere 1% of this number. Rather than feeling disempowered by my inability to vote, I opted for the next best thing, being a poll worker, and was denied due to my age. Luckily, an even better opportunity arose as a friend from San Diego High School was leading the San Diego chapter of When We All Vote, My School Votes. When We All Vote, My School Votes is a nonpartisan organization created by Michelle Obama to encourage voter registration, empowerment, and education amongst high schoolers. Obviously, I jumped at the opportunity and spent the summer having meaningful discussions with the other members about how to successfully navigate digital voter registration. And as the only LJCDS student involved, I took on the role of voting captain to ensure that all 35-ish eligible LJCDS students would be voting this election and establish this habit for their future. And better yet, get every student excited about the day that they turn 18 and can vote in their first election. Even if only 1% of young voters would participate in this election, I'm ambitiously hoping for 100% turnout amongst my school community. And while thinking 35 eligible people is too small to make a difference, it's important to realize that in a country where majority rules, even an extra 35 people can make a change. An extra 35 votes for a congressional member can elect said member to the House, who could be the turn in deciding a majority in a major legislation. An extra 35 votes could change an electoral district in a swing state. I've also recently had the opportunity to partner with a teacher at a local public high school to encourage their students, many of whom are from communities that are underrepresented in our government, to not only register themselves, their friends, and their family to vote, but understand their impact in doing so and why they are so essential to our democracy. Through launching a website campaign that serves as a resource hub for new voters, these students have posted videos sharing the importance of voting, created graphics relating to voter suppression and civic engagement, and have simultaneously learned how to establish voting as a lifelong habit for themselves and their community, creating a domino effect of voter registration. Despite not being able to vote in this election, I feel even more satisfied knowing I have empowered others who can.
Thank you, Lucy. Let me hand things over now to Tavisha Khanna, who is going to speak on behalf of her and Yasmina Torres about the School of Now, which is, well, I'll let you share with it, but a very exciting innovation that they have created over the last couple months.
So, hi, my name is Tavisha Khanna. I'm one of the founding members of the School of Now, along with Yasmina Torres, who's here with us today, and Roma Nagel, who unfortunately couldn't make it. We're a youth-led group partnering with schools across the country committed to redefining our curriculum to integrate art and current events. We started as a group of students just sitting on a grassy area discussing the stresses of school. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we decided to continue meeting online, but shifted our focus and began to put an emphasis on the question, what do we want from our school's education, specifically when we go back? We as students really value our education, but often feel that our courses are solely focused on passing down information and not on how said information affects us, and especially the why factor of learning what is being taught. Apart from that, over the summer, we led a series of discussions where we had a conversation about social media and social justice. We also led conversations around self-care practices and changing our institution. We've been featured in a local newspaper, and we've partnered up with schools across the country, including the School of Oxbow and South Central High School. In the next year, we hope to expand our team to include a more diverse set of members in order to grow internationally and host more events. The School of Now believes that we can affect change by altering behaviors, piquing interests, generating conversations, and leading people on paths in real life. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavisha. Cassidy Ratner with the Casa De Amistad.
I would like to start off by thanking both Mr. Schulman and the Voice of San Diego for this incredible opportunity. My name is Cassidy Ratner, and I'm here today to present about one of my most meaningful volunteer experiences. Inspired by the values of Tikkun Olam, or the notion of repairing the world through good deeds, my faith has taught me the importance of giving back to my community, and it has therefore become an essential aspect of my identity. I have pursued my passion for service work in order to make the world a better place, and I believe the greatest way to better my community is through educating those of the younger generation. These are the students that will one day be our nation's doctors, lawyers, and government leaders. Through my involvement with the organization Casa De Amistad, I have been able to make strides towards this objective. Casa De Amistad aims to foster the education and character development of underserved children, teens, and their families. I work as a volunteer tutor to help low-income students improve their understanding of concepts taught in their math and government classes. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, tutoring sessions are now held virtually as additional help is needed more than ever. I construct lessons for students to compensate for asynchronous learning that does not allow for their teachers to provide in-depth explanations or give one-on-one assistance. As someone who is extremely thankful to have the privilege of attending an amazing school like La Jolla Country Day, I believe that it is my civic duty to give back by working with local students who are not presented with the same opportunities. Being immersed in the college application process myself, I acknowledge the need for standardized test prep resources in Casa De Amistad's college counseling program. Given that the majority of well-paying jobs fail to look twice at any application without the paramount title of a college degree, higher education is essential in breaking the cycle of poverty. Through my leadership role on the La Jolla Country Day School Community Service Board, I organized a book drive to collect these test prep resources to aid high school students within the organization. In planning the book drive, I was able to inspire fellow students on the Community Service Board to reach out to become peer tutors as well. I work to spread awareness of Casa De Amistad and all of the good that it does for local students by informing my peers of the work that I do, as I value the importance of leading by example when making a difference. Being a leader in one's community exceeds simply coordinating and planning from behind the comfort of a boardroom. Being a true leader entails seeing all parts of the plan through and putting all efforts into the success of the end result. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. And Carson Walker, who has been doing some work with Black Lives Matter.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carson Walker, a sophomore student, athlete, activist, public speaker, and leader at La Jolla Country Day School. From a young age, I was always treated differently because of the color of my skin. As a child, I was consistently brought up that I was Black at school. In elementary school and middle school, I was called a strong racial slur. And my freshman year of high school, I was stopped by the police when I was walking down the street after a woman called them on me. I'm used to this country not treating my people right. George Floyd only being a recent example of such. Tamir Rice was a child shot by police when he had an airsoft gun. Trayvon Martin was killed and his killer never received any consequence. Ahmaud Arbery was killed and his killers almost got away with it. When the opportunity to speak at a Black Lives Matter rally, when I got the opportunity to speak at a Black Lives Matter rally, I jumped at the opportunity. I've been doing forensic public speaking for around a year or two, but this is my first major event. And I gave a speech that got people involved. I've been directly involved for less than a year with Black Lives Matter, but I've been supportive since I was in 4th grade. Black Lives Matter was created, as you all may know, after court ruled in favor of George Zimmerman after he killed Trayvon Martin. And since then, it has organized hundreds of public events, recent examples being protests and rallies. Again, I've spoken at one protest as of now, but I've been doing public speaking for around a year or so. I'm excited to be here today, and I thank the Voice of San Diego and Mr. Schulman for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carson. And I really will, as we go over here to questions, and you all have been thanking the Voice of San Diego. You've been thanking me for being able to have this opportunity, but you are the ones to be thanked. You are the ones who are out there doing amazing things, inspiring all of us in an older generation to see the excitement and the enthusiasm and the passion that you bring to all of your projects. And it's so exciting to have all of you here together, all 5 of you here together, demonstrating the many different ways that our students are making a difference. So I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to ask the students some questions, but there's a reason why we have this set up the way that we do. We wanted to set this up like a typical Zoom call so that anybody has the opportunity to ask a question. If you have a question to ask, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm happy to share it from there. Or if you are participating on this call and you have a question, there is that little raise hand function if you click on participants. I'm sure we've all spent a little bit of time on Zoom over the last 6 months, but just in case, click under participants, and at the bottom right, there should be a raise hand function. And if you do that, I'll be able to call on you. But here, let me start off here. And the first question, especially after listening to all of you and the time commitment that it involves in each one of your projects, there's just kind of the basic logistical question of how do you balance your schoolwork and your social lives with your commitment to social justice and your concern for the community? Does anybody want to field that question first? Carson, go ahead.
So personally, what I've been doing was I kind of work my time for activism into my homework time. So whenever I'm preparing a speech or something, I'll probably work on that with my homework. So I'll finish up my homework and I'll take some time dedicated to that, and then with my social life and sports and all that, I kind of am able to. I've been able to balance that naturally somehow. I don't know how to explain how I've been able to do that, but with activism and with social justice activism, as well as schoolwork, I feel like what I usually do, I just try to work it into my homework schedule, which is probably why I stay up till midnight and why I don't sleep. But that's the point.
All right, excellent. Tavisha?
So I guess it's definitely difficult. There's a lot to do, especially if you're taking hard classes at school and then you have other commitments. It's definitely really difficult, but somehow it just works out in the end. I don't know. I don't really plan for it. I guess it just works out. Or like normally, like for the School of Now, at least, like we'll schedule like meetings almost like every couple of days, and I guess it's just sort of taking out like the free time that you have and putting that towards your activism. Because honestly, it's not even taking away your free time, because this is what I want to use my free time to do. This is really what I want to do, and I prefer doing this than say another activity.
Something that that I once heard from a student at Georgetown University when we took a trip there last year. She defined passion as something that your passion is something you put a lot of work into, and yet you're inspired to keep putting more time and effort into that. Eleanor, you had some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think there's the ability to be active and be within your community. I don't think it's mutually exclusive from being a student. Especially because the more you learn about the world within your classes and your school life, I think that works towards your goals of being part of your community instead of against it.
Right. And Yasmina, we haven't, do you want to answer this question? Actually, and Yasmina, tell us just a little bit about you as well. I know you are, of course, work with Tavisha and Roma, who's not here, with the School of Now.
Yeah, okay, so hi, I'm Yasmina and I'm a junior. And so basically, yeah, I'm a co-founder of the School of Now, and we started like at the end of last year. And so it really developed over the summer.
And I feel like that was a huge help for us to balance it out because we didn't have to worry about school at all. We just had to focus on our organization. But when school started back up, I did find it very difficult to juggle everything. So we actually decided to start a club at our school. So basically we're expanding our organization at Country Day to involve more students. And we're basically going to add them to our team, and they're going to help us sort of balance everything out. So that's really great because at the beginning we've been having countless meetings, like 2-hour meetings, a lot. And it was becoming like a lot of stress. So I think that definitely growing our team is going to help with balancing social life in school and our organization.
And thank you. Thank you. Lucy, do you want to share as well? You're into several million things.
Well, when it comes to those several million things, I, especially when it comes to being the editor-in-chief of our school newspaper, I luckily have a really supportive team, and I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm sure they can all attest to that. So that's very helpful. And then when it comes to social life, I think something important is combining civic engagement and your social connections, like using your social media to an advantage. Like I've tried and get people to vote and register to vote through social media, Instagram, messaging people, things like that. So I think when it comes to combining social life and civic engagement, if you find friends who have similar interests, it's like enjoyable for you all to talk about, and you can participate in like activism together.
Right. Thank you. And we just had a question here from Kelly McCormick for a little bit more if Yasmina and Tavisha. I think this is a good time now that we've taken in what everybody's doing to share a little bit more with us about what the School of Now is. And Tavisha gave us a great overview, but of course the School of Now is so innovative. It's so very much inspired by recent events. And maybe you can tell us even a little bit more about the partnerships that you have for or the other partners outside of La Jolla Country Day School who you're working with in the School of Now, and some of the programs that you've held and the programs that you're planning.
Okay, so as Tavisha said, we are partnering with the Oxbow School. So that's our main partnership, and we got many of our members there. And that was really, so if you don't know what the Oxbow School is, it's like a boarding school for high schoolers. And the main thing is just art. Everything is based off of art, and they teach everything with art, which is really cool. And which is one of our goals, actually, to include more art into our curriculum. And so we got many of our members from there, and we also got many of our facilitators from there as well. We held discussions over the summer. It's really just a conversation with whoever wants to show up, and it's really open. And we talked about social justice and social media. And it's basically, our goal is to start conversations about subjects that people might not want to talk about or might feel like they shouldn't talk about them, because those are really the subjects that we need to talk about. We need to learn more. We need to spread the message of these topics. So by having these conversations, we can really spread these messages across the US. And we're also partnered with South Central High School, so we have one of our members from there. And basically, our member is just representing that school and bringing her own points of views and basically spreading our message at that school. Do we have any more partnerships other than those two schools? We're currently working towards getting more partnerships, but obviously it's a long process. Or I mean, maybe it's not. Also, like, I guess like what we're really trying to do is we're trying to change our educational system through our school, like within our school and outside of our school, because really we feel as students that we aren't taught the necessary skills, or maybe we are taught the necessary skills, but we're not really taught the importance behind these skills. It's sort of just like, I don't know, it's just like this is what you have to learn, and that's it, and that's where it ends. And there's a really big disconnect between what's going on in the real world and what we're learning in the classroom, and we're sort of trying to bridge that gap. So yeah.
And that's that actually is a really good lead-in to Amario's question about how do you spread your organizations and your work throughout San Diego to schools with lower funding. Something that we talk about quite frequently at La Jolla Country Day School is that we're not a normal school. We're a school where with a significant tuition. We have a considerable percentage of our students who are on financial assistance, but nonetheless, it's not an easy school in that sense to attend in terms of having all of the resources necessary and having enough fortunate things, I guess we could say, happen to us. But we do talk a lot in our community about what we at Country Day can do for schools that do not have those types of resources that we have. And Lucy, I wonder if you could maybe start by talking a little bit about the project that you're doing with the School for the Creative and Performing Arts.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Thank you. So recently I've had the opportunity to partner with a teacher from the San Diego School for Creative and Performing Arts, which is a school in San Diego Unified. And what we've sort of been able to do is, at some schools, they don't have the the Center for Excellency in Citizenship. They don't have the same resources that we have available at Country Day. So working with this teacher, I've been able to help her launch sort of a website campaign that serves as a resource hub for students who go to her school who are eligible to vote, and for their families, their friends, their school community as a whole. Because she was telling me that many of these students, they don't feel empowered to vote because they're not used to seeing people like them who maybe come from underrepresented communities in our government. They're not used to seeing them make laws. They're not used to seeing them, on TV when we see the news for people who are making policies and legislation. So they just don't feel empowered to vote, which was very disheartening to hear, of course. So working with this teacher, we've been able to implement some curriculum within her class to get these students more empowered to vote, as well as combining them into our efforts with this website campaign. They've all uploaded incredible videos about the importance of voting, why they are personally choosing to vote in this election, many of whom maybe they're first in their families to vote, or perhaps it's their parents' first time voting. So that's just been really amazing to see sort of how that can impact people who may not have felt empowered to vote previously. So they've sort of been using the website as a place to combine all of their work that they're working on when it comes to voting and civic engagement, as well as providing a sort of a resource hub for everything that you need to do to know how to vote, with like some troubleshooting questions for anyone who may be a first-time voter.
Thank you, Lucy. And Cassidy, do you want to share about some of the projects that you're involved with Casa De Amistad?
Yes. So especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, the schools that the students attend that aren't particularly well funded to begin with have had to transfer onto Zoom, and the large class sizes have made it difficult for students to obtain extra help and that they would need. And so I've been able to help them by constructing lessons for these students to help compensate for the loss of individual one-on-one work with their teachers.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how you've been able to do that? And I know there's the drive that you have in the works.
Yes, I'm holding a book drive through my role on La Jolla Country Day School's Community Service Board to collect SAT, prep books, ACT, and AP testing books to help the students in the high school program prepare for standardized testing that is essential for the college acceptance process, college application process.
And you mentioned, of course, I mean, it would be impressive if all of you were doing everything that you were doing and nothing else. But of course, I know we're just kind of we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg from each of you in terms of the many ways that you're involved. But this is could you talk a little bit about, Cassidy, because you've been very involved with Community Service Board, which you're not formally representing here, but you are, because that is a part of your engagement in terms of the types of projects that Community Service Board does in answering Amario's question about working with other schools well beyond Country Day.
One of my biggest leadership roles on Community Service Board has been the Youth Leadership Council of the San Diego Food Bank. And on the Leadership Council, I work with representatives from other local high schools in San Diego to promote the San Diego Food Bank at each of our own schools. And at La Jolla Country Day, we host the annual Martin Luther King food drive every year. And I have been able to represent the food bank on the board of the Community Service Board. And then this summer, I continued my involvement by volunteering at the drive-through distribution to aid families who have been heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and families that have been continuously struggling with food insecurity. And upon the start of the pandemic, I'm also on the La Jolla Country Day School Philanthropy Board, and I acknowledge the impact on the food insecurity community that the pandemic was having. So I reached out to representatives from the food bank to ask them to come speak to the Philanthropy Board and present. And we ended up allocating $3,000 to the San Diego Food Bank.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I want to speak for a moment here about the Center for Excellence, because we are inspired by the actions that our students do. And that in turn has had us doing a number of partnerships, including for our mock trial team, our Model United Nations teams. These are competitive programs, but competitive programs that are dedicated towards supporting new programs, the like programs in public schools that don't have the same funding and resources, and then hosting conferences, providing low-cost opportunities, often no-cost opportunities for those students to be able to participate with us. We've also recently built a partnership with the San Diego Diplomacy Council for a Global Leaders Online program that we had over the summer. We're doing a fall enrichment program, and it's one that we're really focusing on with the Diplomacy Council, finding funding, finding sponsorships, because as was unquestionably one of the best parts of our summer program, it was the fact that we were able to have students participating in this global leadership program from all over San Diego. And on Zoom, everybody came in with, everybody was equal on Zoom, and everybody came in with the same limited opportunity to communicate on Zoom and participate in diplomatic simulations, engage with leaders of industry, leaders of politics from around the world. So I got to tell you, and I hand this to our students, it's our students who take on these projects and then in turn inspire us to look for opportunities to do more of those. Kelly McCormick has a great question here, but before I get to that, if you look in the chat, since I know some of you have been asking about the School of Now, the spectacular Cindy Bravo, who is our Visual and Performing Arts Department Chair, and is the sponsor, the teacher sponsor for the School of Now. She's just added the Instagram information for School of Now. And you can see, in fact, one of the real highlights, if you go there, you can see a video from the first event that they held. And it is a series of highlights from that video talking about anti-racism and very much the challenges of the individuals involved. It's really quite incredible. But let me go to Kelly McCormick's question here, and Carson, I'm gonna go to you and Eleanor to start off. With so much disinformation on social media, what are your go-to sources for reliable news, other than Voice of San Diego, of course? But where do you go? How do you wade through the muck to get a fuller understanding, a comprehensive understanding of what's going on out there, so that you can operate with that. So Carson, let me reach out to you on that question.
Yeah, so for me, I usually look at a wide range of sources. Sometimes I'll look at KPBS, I'll look at CNN, and then I'll look at BBC, and I'll also look at, on our school has a partnership with something called News Decoder, which is a news site that has students as writers. Actually, I'm starting to write for them, but anyway, yeah, News Decoder is a really good source because it has students writing it and it has them resourcing the facts to it too. But I feel, but like my number one go-to source would either be CNN or BBC, but whichever one comes first.
And Eleanor, actually, before I go over to you, I know I'm going to call on you, Lucy, because I know you've been doing some work with News Decoder as well. And I wonder if you could share a little bit more about that and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's actually very timely. I was super lucky to actually have an interview with someone for a News Decoder article that I'm writing. So I'm currently writing an article about the First Amendment rights given to students on and off campus following, there was sort of a landmark case that happened this summer where a student had posted something on her social media and was kicked off her school cheerleading team for saying something, harmful or negative about the team. And basically the ACLU represented her in court, and there was, in a landmark decision, decided that schools are not allowed to regulate off-campus speech for public high school students. And actually just yesterday, I was able to get in touch with the lawyer who had represented the student in the case, who works for ACLU in Pennsylvania. And we had a really lovely interview and lovely chat. I learned loads about the First Amendment and also just about the legal process, which has just been really interesting for me. As I'm sort of, since I've done like journalism, I'm a little bit less versed in the legal realm. So it was really interesting to hear about the court processes happening, and also the fact that this case might be taken to the Supreme Court next year, which I felt very privileged to, hear about that and read the petition for myself. So I've loved working with News Decoder.
And do you want to say a word about, I don't think she's on here, but a word about the spectacular Voice of San Diego intern, Kate Nucci? Because I know that you've engaged with her for the Palette, the school newspaper.
Yeah, we were also super lucky to have Kate Nucci come speak to the Palette. For those of you who are very familiar with the Voice of San Diego, you may know that she was the one who found out that the seditious language law in San Diego was still happening, often under unjust means. And she spoke to our group and told this amazing narrative about, researching during COVID, asking for public records requests, which was very interesting to see as a journalist, just because she was really using all of her resources to her advantage. And she also was able to find interviews with people on ways that were a little bit unconventional. Because of COVID, she wasn't able to go out, come to these people's houses and, ask them for interviews, or oftentimes the cases that she was seeing that people were being convicted for seditious language were years ago. And she was finding these people on Facebook messaging and able to get interviews from there, which I just thought was super fascinating to see how unconventional it was for her to find these people, especially operating during COVID. And she talked a little bit about what she's done with the Voice of San Diego, and she was just an awesome speaker to have. And I know I speak for the rest of the staff at our newspaper when they say that it was very fascinating, super interesting to hear, really inspiring as well.
And we will be making use of Kate in our AP government class as well. We're not just letting her go with that. Eleanor, can you tell us, going back to Kelly's question here, with all that disinformation on social media, what are your reliable news sources?
So I think just in general on the topic of disinformation, it's good to be skeptical and cautious, but still generally optimistic. But I personally happened to have my first assignment in my government class be to download the New York Times, San Diego Union Tribune, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal apps to my phone and turn on notifications. So I tend to, throughout the day, I receive many, many notifications. about what's going on. And then I also will go to other news sources that perhaps have different leanings in order to just balance out what I see, and then use logical reasoning to make sense of what I see.
I don't know who suggested you download those apps, but whoever that was clearly an amazing educator. So kudos to him. Tavisha, Yasmina, I mean, the School of Now is very much geared towards taking what we're seeing, what you're seeing around you, and pulling that into your education. So that's right at the heart there. Of making sure that you have access to reliable information is right at the heart. So what do you look to?
I don't think we have any specific news sources that we go to, because we're trying to keep a more diverse, because obviously we don't want to go to one specific news site, or one specific, or a news site that has a specific leaning or whatever. So you'll be surprised the amount of information you can find through social media as well. And just like through our discussions, like we find a lot of amazing people come to our discussions, and there's a lot of learning that comes there as well. And just like looking around to all news sources, trying to keep as much of an unbiased view as possible, I guess. Yeah.
All right. We got some more questions from the audience here. So let me hand things over to Annie. Annie Lyles, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself to ask your question?
Sure. Thank you all so much for being here today and sharing your stories. I'm the executive director of the Aaron Price Fellows, and we do some similar work with public high school students. One of our fellows is here today with us. We start with fellows in 9th grade, and I wondered if you could think all the way back to your 9th grade years, now that you're a little further on in your careers. What advice would you give to a young person starting high school out, balancing school and community and everything else? What's your sage advice for those 9th graders?
Before we go to somebody to answer that question, Annie, can your fellow go ahead and say hello and share a little bit?
No, she was the person that asked the question a minute ago.
Okay.
Maria, do you want to say hi? I'm not sure she's in a place where it is quiet enough for her to come on, but Maria was the fellow that asked the question a moment ago.
Okay, all right, no worries. Oh, there you are. Okay. And Maria, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so currently I am in 10th grade. I really enjoyed like going through all of these different panels and like just learning a whole bunch, especially in this one, because it makes me really want to start like becoming an activist for my community, especially because we're not being as heard over here. And but yeah, I'm a 10th grader. I joined Fellows, and they really given me the opportunity to like learn a lot more about my community. And yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much. And thanks so much for joining us. We've got a few people who want to respond to you. So we'll start with Carson, who's also currently in 10th grade. Go ahead, Carson.
Yeah, biggest advice to a current, sorry, just to make sure the question is what advice would I give to a freshman, well, to a freshman that are upcoming as well, and who want to get involved? Or, yeah, all right. That's the question. All right, cool. Yeah, my biggest advice is to find your passion and just go with the flow of what you want to do. And to be able to balance it with school, because school is the most important thing. So just be able to balance it and try to so try to find like what you enjoy, find your passion here and what you want to get involved in, because what you are the most passionate about is what you're going to have the strongest voice in. So just find what you're passionate about and start working with it. Try to start researching about like how you can get involved, and then boom, and get yourself involved, and then you're in. And now you just keep going with the flow until oh god, no, just keep going with the flow and you're good, because once you find what you're passionate about, you're going to keep working with it, and boom.
There you go. Absolutely excellent advice. Cassidy, you're our resident senior, so you have to look back a little bit further to get to ninth grade. But what's your advice?
I am currently a senior, and looking back, there are about a million things that I would have told my freshman self. But the foremost is to get involved and immerse yourself in every opportunity that you possibly can. And even though it took me these years in between to find my priorities and to find my passion, I have become immersed in service work, and it took me this journey to get here. But my advice is to just take every opportunity that you can, and it'll eventually lead you to doing something that you love.
And let me also, I'm going to reach out into the crowd here. In the crowd, we've got one of our graduates, a recent graduate, Danielle Amir Lobel, and who can even go back and has to go back 4 years, but Danielle is now a freshman at Stanford. And Danielle, you have some thoughts on thinking back to your freshman, sophomore year?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Great job to all the speakers. You all are doing amazing things. So I was involved in a lot of different things in high school. Like Lucy, I was the former editor-in-chief of the Palette, and I was in community service board with some of you and a lot of different things. But I think these opportunities were all super transformative, and I love doing them. And I think my advice would be, like Carson, to just find the things that you love and like not be hindered by any barriers that you think, because if an organization doesn't exist or you can't find one, then you can start one, or like you can reach out to whoever you want, even if like you really want to talk to someone and you don't think that they would want to talk to you because you're just a student. Like, you'd be surprised. People will answer you, and they want to help you, and they want to mentor you. So really just like go for whatever you want, and high school is just a time to explore and do all the things that you're excited about. So but you all are doing amazing things, and I think that the potential for all of these only increases when you enter college. So I can't wait to see where you take it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Danielle. And I know we've got all of our other panelists are all they all want to jump in with advice. And Mario, we're gonna get your the contact information from you or from Annie Lyles so that we can follow up. But I do want to we're running out of time, and I want to get one more question, or got a closing question, but we also have a question from Frank Granda. Frank, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and
yes, thank you. I've been waiting for all this. So let me explain some backgrounds, which was important to my question. So basically, you see, right now I'm basically working on providing like supplementary history presentations, to my school, because I believe that there are some things that are being left out since the way we teach history is so whitewashed and Eurocentric. So I'm doing presentations on subjects that are based on racial subjects that have been overlooked. And basically progress has been I've been able to reach out to like a few teachers, but the problem was that progress was unfortunately a bit slow because, schools more focused on reopening and stuff, or at least in my case. So basically wondering that, how do I expand my program to not only for not only for my school, but also to reach out to the district and also on any potential partnerships that, if any of you guys seem interested.
Great question, Frank. And first of all, thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. You're absolutely right in that there is so much focus on the reopening. And yet, while we have this, while we're facing this global pandemic, we're also facing a racial injustice and structural inequality pandemic, which is just as important, if not more. And so thoughts here from our panelists on, Carson, go ahead.
Yeah, history by itself, we know like the saying that history is written by the quote unquote winners of every conflict that it takes. However, I agree that history, like how it's being taught, is very, very Eurocentric. And I really love the efforts that you are going through trying to bring up a different route to it, because it needs to be showcased in a different light. It shouldn't be as focused on Europe as it is right now. So my advice to you on trying to get to the school and to the rest of the district is keep going with it. try to get all the teachers on board somehow. If they're all with it, then to be good, and try to keep going from school to school, trying just advertising what you're trying to do and your movement, and then
We just lost your sound, Carson. All right, I think we lost Carson there for a moment. But let me reach over here to sorry, Carson, you're back. We got your back. Well, you had a final thought there.
All right, sorry, hold on. Does this work better?
Yeah, if you can go ahead, we need to wrap up. So if you can go give us a final thought, and then I want to go over to Yasmina for a final thought as well.
All right, sorry. So yeah, just keep going, because they might not approve it at first, but just keep trying, keep pushing, and then eventually it will. That's my biggest advice to you.
And Yasmina?
Yes, so actually the School of Now is trying to change our curriculum. And so what we found the most helpful is to actually get the parents on board. So we spoke at the Parents Association about what we're trying to do, and we're just trying to get parents on board within our idea, because their children are going to be the one in those history classes. And if they agree with what you want to put forth, then you're definitely going to have a lot of people supporting your ideas, and hopefully convincing all the teachers to go forth with your plan. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Yasmina. I just want to point out here for a moment for everybody. We at La Jolla Country Day School, we had the honor of inviting Susan Bro to come speak to our school. She's the mother of Heather Heyer, and we've done some work with Heather Heyer Foundation. Heather Heyer was the young woman, anti-racist, who was killed at Charlottesville in August of 2017. And in her honor and memory, sharing her Facebook message that I think was one of her last Facebook messages. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And I think all of our students here demonstrate that you got to pay attention. And if you're paying attention, you see that there are so many things that unfortunately our generation has left to you. You have plenty of work to do in order to clean up our messes. But I'll tell you, from everything you shared with us today, I think it's safe to say you have our support, and we're going to do everything we can to help you out. Thank you so much for all of your work. Thanks for everything. I know we could talk for much longer, but we certainly don't want to get in the way of Attorney General Becerra. So thank you so much, Scott. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys. What a great conversation. I hate to cut you off, but this is where we need to transition to the other sessions. I highly encourage that you get in there and listen to the reporter Alon Stevens interviewing. He's from the Trace, covers criminal justice reform and firearms and issues with weaponry in the Trace, which is a great nonprofit news organization. He's going to be interviewing Javier Becerra, the Attorney General, or there are a bunch of other sessions going on. I posted the link where you can kind of recenter yourself there, or go back to the app. Thank you guys so much for having this great conversation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of PolitiFest. Thank you, Jonathan, and all the participants.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Have a good afternoon.